Hi, welcome to my political show Elmo, Kavindu, Gooneratne Political Times. Before start the show, I want to hit the like button and subscribe to my show. Now let's get started. Now the reason that you see there is a change in the name is because of personal tragedy I experienced. My personal tragedy. My father passed away on the 27th of August because of a stroke. Then the following day, my grandfather, who was aged 89, passed away the following day. And this is my tribute for my grandfather and my father. The both of these men were titans and giants in journalism in Sri Lanka. They represented an era of honesty, truthfulness, and intelligence, and a golden era. And as myself, the grandson, and I hope I can carry their footsteps and give the world what they gave to the world. So that's my tribute to you. And I hope my viewers will understand the tribute, and I hope that. So now let's get started. Now, as you all know right now, the biggest talking agenda is, did the Biden administration mess the process in Afghanistan? The answer is no. I tell you why. And all the blame he gets should not be fair. Now let's talk to the crisis. The crisis in Afghanistan began in 2001 under the Bush administration, when the Bush administration decided after 9/11 to invade Afghanistan to fight terrorism. Now that all makes absolute sense, but the problem is, once they entered Afghanistan, the love of war and defense money and everything came into the affection as they turned that into wholesome war, and then they invaded Iraq 2 years later. Things like that happened. Now because of that, blaming Biden for the war in Afghanistan is simply not fair. That's the truth. Now, of course, it's not wrong to say that President Joe Biden did not get this withdrawal spot on. Yes, it was a messy withdrawal. But what happens if you occupy a foreign nation for 20 years, a nation like Afghanistan that has a very much of a tribal society, and an enemy like the Taliban who always fights to take control? What do you expect? And people who think this would have been less messy, think again, what would have happened? This is the exact scenario, whether this was a Republican or a Democrat president. Now, unlike if it was a Republican president, I guess they would have given up on the deadline. But Joe Biden said 31st was his deadline, and he stayed until the deadline, even when more than 13 plus American soldiers lost their lives after bombing by ISIS-K. But President Biden stayed true to its goal of 31st. Stayed true and got 90% of all the people out of Afghanistan who wanted to go. Now the remaining people who wants to go will be able to leave Afghanistan. Taliban and the United States are now working together with negotiations right now. So yes, President Joe Biden will not leave anyone behind. I can assure that up front. But now let's talk about the factions, now the critiques. The Republicans say that we should have never left Afghanistan. Some Democrats say things should have been less messy. Some, even GOP, even some Democrats, other way around, say that we should have left behind a small force of troops in Afghanistan. What's the point of leaving a small troops or a force in Afghanistan if the Taliban was going to take over power in Afghanistan the way it did? And also, there is a question about the effort and the value of the American effort in Afghanistan. After more than 20 years, more than $2 trillion of investment into Afghanistan, infrastructure, social structuring, things like that, forming a government, none of them paid off except social reforms. Afghan women now finally have the right to do what they want to do. But unfortunately, since now Taliban is once again in charge, the Afghan women will no longer have the right. And I do not believe anything what the Taliban says. They are lying. There won't be any freedom for any Afghan woman in Afghanistan. There won't be. But let's be real. How long can the United States keep its troops in Afghanistan and keep its work in peace? You can't. That's why they formed a democratic Afghan government. And if the government, if the corruption of the government affects the way the plans work, what can the United States do? I give you a prime example. Just before Ashraf Ghani fled Afghanistan like a coward, Joe Biden and Afghan President Ghani have actually made plans how to encounter the Taliban. But that didn't happen because soon as the plan was done, he ran away. That's what exactly happened. And I also want to tell people, the Afghan government was corrupt. I won't lie. It was the American policy failure, and one of those rare failures from the American side, and that's a reality. In fact, the Afghan government did not even fed its soldiers. Yep, not joking, not even their soldiers, and not even paid their salaries. What can you expect? Their own soldiers did not fight for their country. So why should the United States fight for Afghanistan's freedom after $2 trillion of all army training, military training, a very good air force, and all the equipment and everything? If the Afghans can't defend themselves, how long are these changes that are actually sustainable? Now, as a person myself, I am truly sad. I see the pictures coming out of Afghanistan, and I see the chaos. In the Kabul airport, 2 people actually technically went down from the plane as they trying to hold on to the plane to leave Afghanistan. One of them was actually a young football player, and things like that. It's sad. It breaks my heart. But the reality is that the Afghan people also knew that the United States was definitely going to go. They knew it, everyone knew it up front. That's a fact. But of course, they would have wanted a little bit better, less messier process. But this is the fact. Nothing is unmessy. Everything is messy. It's war, it's Middle East, it's the Taliban. Expect it. But either way, the people who did manage to make the refuge will now find a new life, and I know they will surely enjoy the life that they once lived, which they want to continue. Now, of course, blaming President Biden for everything is not fair. He was a man who always wanted to go. But yes, as a senator, he did once supported the war. But it's the thing, every senator who now opposes the war supported the war in Iraq and Afghanistan in 2001 and 2003. So it's not really fair to call out just Joe Biden for that. It's not really fair on that notion. That's a fact. That's the reality. Also, many people say Joe Biden was in such a hurry to leave, he didn't focus on anything. No, he focused. This is the best he could have done, and that's a fact check. And also, he had the balls to make the decision to end a 20-year forever war, which was wasting the life of American soldiers, a cause that's never going to be sustained. While there are bigger threats in the world right now that the White House have to focus on. Now, things like China, things like Russia, things like Red Sea, issues like them. There are serious issues the United States have to focus on. Climate change, infrastructure, there are things that they have to focus on. That's a reality check. And let's be real, more than 50% of any population in the world loves war. And for warmongers, it's a bad decision. The reality is that when a president like Biden makes a decision to end a war, he will always get bad approval ratings on that. And that's a sad fact. But don't worry, very soon Joe Biden might declare a new war somewhere. That's a fact. So on that note, what I'm trying to tell you is, don't blame Joe Biden. Blame the people who made these things happen. Blame Donald Trump, who made the deal with the Taliban at first place. Blame George W. Bush, the man who made the United States have this fragile Middle Eastern policy. Blame them, but don't blame Joe Biden. Also, can you blame Obama? I guess you could blame Obama a little bit, also blame Obama a little bit as well. So end of the day, don't blame Biden. Blame the people who made the problem first. Instead, applaud Joe Biden for making a decision that had to be taken. That's a fact. Now let's continue from that, and let's talk about the resignation of the Japanese Prime Minister. Now, he replaced the former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, who quit the job because of health. Now, the new Prime Minister of Japan did not get off to a good start. He has poor approval ratings, and to be really fair, he is not doing extremely well at all. That's why he will be not running. Now, he might say because of COVID restrictions and things like that, but don't trust what he says. The realistic truth is not that. The realistic truth, he simply can't win. So Japan will have another Prime Minister within a very short time. Oh God, Japan is truly experiencing political issues indeed. So on this note, I'm also going to talk about something very important right now. Now, I know this issue is going to be very sensitive right now. Right now, China. Now China right now, at this moment as we are speaking, is regulating their people on everything. The number of hours children can play video games, now down to 3 hours. Now tech companies are now filled with more restrictions than ever been in, and they are charging high taxes from Chinese movie stars and celebrities just because they are too rich. Can you think of a pattern going around here? What I am telling? A pattern? Yes, the good old Soviet Union, the same Russian/Soviet Union pattern. Controlling the wealthy, telling the words like we will spread the wealth for the poor and the middle class. All those poor youngsters don't know one thing. Communism is a failed experiment and the evidence is everywhere. See North Korea, see Russia, see everywhere. And no government ever spreads the wealth of the rich to the poor because it never happens. And they are only doing this for their interests. I think many young Chinese people should understand. And also, now that in the Chinese people, now they can have more than one child. Lovely. It's very easy to have more than one child when you make a system of finance in a country that's technically built to support one child. How does that work? I don't know. The Chinese might be telling their Chinese people to sell their arms and kidneys to survive, I presume, so their population can grow again. I guess the Chinese are the most arrogant people I know. They make these decisions and then they know they are wrong and then they try to go back on that and things like that. And they are even not allowing the World Health Organization to do the job on finding the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic. That's why, as I previously said, that the United States have to focus on issues like this right now rather than achieve missions like Afghanistan. So on this note, I'm going to end this video. Thank you very much for joining me on this show. Thank you very much.